I think we have an achievement gap that we see. But I think in terms of gaps, the biggest gap I see, well, I will tell you the biggest challenge I see right now, which is what are we going to do about AI? And I know this is near and dear to your heart, but I think that's the biggest opportunity we have as well right now. How does instruction change? When the internet came out, it made some teaching obsolete and we had to adapt. Well, the internet didn't go away, much to the chagrin of many people. Now that we have AI, what does that mean for how we need to teach? Is rote memorization that important anymore? Maybe for mental capacity and building some strength in your brain. But I remember when I was going through school, having to memorize every preposition in alphabetical order. I can only tell you that's a great party trick, but I don't know that I couldn't just type right now into an AI model and it's going to print that out for me, right? So how do we teach in a way that's meaningful for student success in the future? And what do future jobs look like with AI being so present?
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of TomoClub's podcast, Leaders of Tomorrow. I'm Avinash Bansal, co-founder of TomoClub. And today on our TomoClub podcast series, we have the Superintendent of Oakland School Board of Education, Kenneth Gutman. It's so good to have you, Ken, on this podcast today.
Avinash, such a pleasure to be asked to be here. Thank you.
No, I think that today's topic is very interesting. It's going to be about your playbook. How do you lead systems and not just schools? And since you are managing not just one district, but like an ecosystem of schools, so it makes so much sense to discuss from a high macro level, like a 30,000 feet view of how to manage things. But before that, I would love if you can give a quick introduction about yourself to our audience.
I would be happy to. Thank you. My path to this role has been the traditional path. Teacher, assistant principal, assistant superintendent. I did both curriculum. I also was an assistant superintendent of human resources. I was a superintendent of an 8,000 student district and then a 16,000 student district. And now I have the pleasure of serving as the superintendent of a countywide school system with 175,000 students in 28 districts and 23 public school academies.
Incredible, and congratulations. Like, this is like one of those stories which a lot of superintendents, a lot of teachers who joined education dream of. And since I have discussed with so many superintendents, it's a very different journey, being a teacher in front of the students. And then a lot of people miss that when they reach superintendency. And when they talk about county, they even get farther away from even parents and students. So how was it always your idea? How did you blend yourself for this?
So I think my favorite position will be classroom teacher, because you're with students, you feel like you're making a difference. And to your point, at the county level, you don't feel that as much.
Yeah.
I always knew I wanted to be in education. My father was an educator. About 40 years, he was an administrator. And I knew that was the path for me, but I didn't picture what that meant. As I got into teaching, I thought I want to be a superintendent one day, but I didn't know what that meant to be at a county level. Now I know, and it's a lot of work and I love it.
So I'm glad you still love it, because, a lot of people get into the job, but of course they're not appreciated. And especially when you are kind of influencing 100,000, 200,000 students and like many families, it's so important to enjoy your job. So tell us more about, your decision-making process, your skills that help you every day to conduct yourself in this job.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of things come to mind. One is you can't lose touch with what's actually happening in classrooms. It's really easy to sit in an office like I'm sitting in now and get a filtered message from the people I hear from, the superintendents, the assistant superintendents, my own, and those around the county. You get that filtered message, you really are out of touch. What's really important to me is to be in the districts, meeting with superintendents and staff, understanding what it's like on the ground, so to speak. You can get elevated to a point where you don't really know what's happening in your own school system. And to me, that's really one of the biggest challenges, to make sure I stay grounded. The other is to listen a heck of a lot more than I speak. You see a lot of people in professions get a big ego. It should be the opposite. I mean, the reality is we need to be humble leaders, have the humility, be able to know that we don't know everything. Surround ourselves with people who will say no to us and make sure that we listen to them.
I think both are very important point. Uh, Whether it's a small organization, even like a 5 member, 6 member team or 100,000 member team, this is so real that you start to be um, you start listening what you want to listen, and that becomes like a vicious circle, and nothing comes out great of those kind of conversations because you are so in a delusional world very soon that it's hard. So I love both those points, active listening and humility. But explain me more about your subjects. Like, what subjects matter to you? Because if you look at from the group of schools, there's a district leader, like a superintendent, and then there's a county leader. What is the division of roles? Where do you think it's my job and you don't want to step on someone else's job? And where is your decision making? So if you can help us understand the subjects matter of concerns, that will be helpful.
Sure. Yeah. Great question. Our county is a little bit different, and Michigan's different. Every state is a little bit different. But in our county, particularly, our 28 local superintendents do not report to me. They report to their local boards.
Yeah.
So what I have is a position of influence, not power. What I've determined is a really big responsibility of mine is knowing that with half of my 28 superintendents in their first or second year, I do believe I have a responsibility to reach out and share some knowledge. This is my 16th year as a superintendent, 14 at a local level. And so from what's really important to me is to be able to help leaders at the district level through difficult situations they're having, or help them see forward past situations or head off difficult situations. So I've taken on a little bit of a mentoring role. I'm happy to take phone calls 24 hours a day. And it's different from being at a local level where you're living in it and you can't always see out of the situation. It's easier to be here where I've lived through a lot of situations. I can see them a little bit more clearly because I'm not mired in the day-to-day.
So something like very similar coming to my mind is ESCs, the Education Service Centers. They
Right.
have similar kind of structure in which, though that is relevant for small school districts, because they are not able to negotiate a better deal being small, while as an ESC has a much stronger influence, whether it is on the government level or the vendor level or parent outreach. So is it fair to have an like analogy between ESCs and your county state level?
We are the same. We are an ISD, which is the same as an ESC, BOCES. You see all the different names, but essentially, yeah. I mean, we also provide economies of scale, support for all of our districts. We're able to help our small districts and our large districts through whatever they need. But I think it's a perfect analogy.
Because again, very nicely you put up that you have a power of influence, not power to like dictate. Because on a everyday basis, there are 100 decisions like teacher hiring, how do you market yourself to the community, how do you do your outreach to parents, hundreds of events happening every day in the schools, summer programs, meals. So there's so many decisions. So I'm still want to understand, like, are there certain decisions that comes under your and you want to keep it standardized across the county, or does you have a decentralized system where every district has their own freedom to choose?
Every district, I think from an efficiency standpoint, it would be wonderful if everyone used the same curriculum, everyone had the same transportation methods, everyone served the same lunches. I mean, from an efficiency and economies of scale perspective, that would be wonderful, but it may not be feasible. The reality is local boards, local districts have their own micropolitics and they have their own context. And I certainly respect that. As a local superintendent, I like the ability to work with my board to do what was best for my students. And I don't know that I wanted the ISD to tell me what to do. I wanted the ISD to support what I did.
No, I agree with that. Though again, it's a trade-off, between accountability as well as efficiency, and yeah, it makes sense.
Oh, it is for sure.
Also, tell me about the financial structuring. Is it like you guys? Because I know a district has like three major organizations. You have the district funds, the county, and the state, and I think federal. Now, federal grants is all over the place after the dismantling. So, not sure about that. So, What's your percentage division for your districts?
So we're funded differently. Our districts are funded differently than we are. They receive their money directly from the state. Some flows through us, some does not. We get funded based on property taxes.
Yeah,
So it's a different funding mechanism for ISDs than it is for our local districts. They're funded through a state budget, K-12 per pupil foundation allowance, plus some categoricals, but we are not funded the same way.
got it. No, sorry, I'm just trying to wrap my head around. There's so many
No, absolutely.
fundamental questions, which is helpful for a lot of people who are aspiring to be in this career. So now switching gears, moving away from the structural understanding to more the future point of view of the county. So is there any county level goals and objective that you guys have set up that you communicate to the local superintendents, or how does it work?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we have some countywide goals. Our Superintendents Association determines some goals throughout the year. All of our superintendents get together and plan, particularly around a legislative agenda, which typically focuses on budget and heading off some bad legislation. But certainly our goals are to improve student achievement, period. You can't do that without fiscal responsibility. You can't do that without safety. You can't do that without a sound curriculum. And without methodology, without appropriate teaching and learning. But essentially, it's all about student achievement. It's all about making sure we're taking care of the whole child and making sure that our children are achieving at a very high level, and making sure that it's about each child, not all the children, each individual child, that we're doing everything we can to look out for each individual child, which as a parent, that's all I want. As a parent, that's all you want. You want what's best for your child. And I think it's great when we take care of others, but you want what's best for your child first. And so we need to find a way to do that.
No, that's exactly the mental model required at a school level, because your communication might be for all, but when I'm listening to it, I'm listening for myself. So there's always this,
Of course.
there's always this dichotomy,
Yeah.
which happens, and that's make it hard, this entire profession. But now, since you talked about the setting up the goals, what are the obvious gaps or the biggest gaps that you have identified in the county? Is it teacher capacity, student engagement, leadership, technology, or something else?
I think we have an achievement gap that we see. But I think in terms of gaps, the biggest gap I see, well, I will tell you the biggest challenge I see right now, which is what are we going to do about AI? And I know this is near and dear to your heart, but I think that's the biggest opportunity we have as well right now. How do I'm just looking forward, how does instruction change? When the internet came out, it made some teaching obsolete and we had to adapt. Well, the internet didn't go away, much to the chagrin of many people. Now that we have AI, what does that mean for how we need to teach? Is rote memorization that important anymore? Maybe for mental capacity and building some strength in your brain. But I remember when I was going through school, having to memorize every preposition in alphabetical order. I can only tell you that's a great party trick, but I don't know that I couldn't just type right now into an AI model and it's going to print that out for me, right? So how do we teach in a way that's meaningful for student success in the future? And what do future jobs look like with AI being so present?
No, absolutely. I think I have definitely 2 cents to it. You're right. It's very close to my heart. So when I'm working with districts, I see there are some immediate remedy that school want, so that they feel that they are a little bit in control. But to be honest, nobody knows anything right now. Like, that is like the bottom line. Even if you look at the CEOs of these AI tech companies, even they are coming up with and saying that I don't know how this code is working. I don't know how it's generating outputs. So it is definitely a mystery box. But as far as schools are concerned, they're looking for immediate remedies on 3 major fronts. First is they need help in how to restructure assignments, so that when they give any work to the students and they want to evaluate, how do they know it is legit or it's not legit? Because whether any AI tracking softwares, they are as good as flipping a coin right now. So
That's right.
so the first thing that they want is to make sure that they are able to track whatever they're teaching. Is it even making any impact on the ground? Secondly, very related to it is what is the future of instruction look like? So should I, because I need to focus on more and more engagement, because definitely there's a lot of open discussion about the relevance of schools. With ESA coming, with charter schools expansion, homeschooling expansion, public schools in general are feeling the heat. And I've worked with so many superintendents, and they are doing a lot of new things to outreach the community to make sure that the relevancy sticks. And so I think AI is like re-challenging it at the very fabric. And assignments and instruction are two major front. And third, very common to is engagement. And I think because at the end of the day, in my opinion, K-12 is always relevant because I want to send my kid to somewhere. I want to have certain break because it is hard. I have a 2-year-old, and we are waiting for him to go to school so that we have some life of our own. So, and when I say that, I mean well that I would want to know that in that school things are happening more relevant. They're happening to prepare my child for the future. So, I think the future of K-12 is spot on. There is no issues on that, but my expectation is changing very rapidly from schools. And
Yeah, and we have to change with it. We
yeah,
have to change with it. If we teach tomorrow like we taught in the 1970s, we're cheating children. So we need to be innovative, and we need to make sure that we're relevant, and we need to make sure that whatever we're doing drives student success in whatever student success means, right? It doesn't mean university necessarily. It could
yeah,
be military, it could be career, but whatever we're doing needs to drive students towards a positive future. And to do that, we have to stay relevant, and ignoring AI isn't going to help us. Embracing it in a way that's cautious, where we know what we're doing with it, that
right.
we're not just randomly experimenting, because we don't have the right to do that with children. If it's planned, it's intentional, it's aimed towards student success, we're on the right track.
And I think one more common thing is right now coming up with any county level policy or even school level policy is not working out, to be honest, because the entire ecosystem is evolving so quickly that by the time you will get everyone agree to one common doc, things may change. So what's the point? So when we're working with school districts, literally what we say is you have to make a classroom level policy as an educator. So when you establish your boundaries, when you talk to your kids, you tell them whether this assignment, how will it look like? You tell them what access they have. And so that as an educator, you have this liberty of how you want to conduct the class. And
Yeah.
of course, there are certain requirements at the state level policies. I'm not denying that, but the implementation will be at the classroom level. So, and I think that has worked nicely for us because when teachers design their own policy, they're able to feel much more in control. They're feeling that they are able to guide students right. And yeah, I think it's a very active field of motion, and nothing we can say is will be enough.
Well, and it's evolving. We have a board policy we just adopted on AI, and I can tell you we also adopted it with the understanding we'll probably change it 100 more times. It will continue to evolve, just like the classroom policies will continue to evolve with AI.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, Also, I would love to know, like, from your point of view, uh, what makes any initiative, like AI or something else, scalable across multiple schools? Instead of remaining like a small success story, what are those ingredients which make it a like big success?
Yeah, first of all, it has to be documented success in the small, in the micro aspect, and then you have to have people who are willing to adopt it. You have to have a passionate base behind it, people who are willing to get out there and try it. Once success breeds success, I know it's a cliche, but once you start having, for example, even any classroom instruction model, if it starts working for the teachers down the hall, I might be willing to jump on board and see what that looks like, right? If I'm a classroom teacher, it's the same thing from a district. If I see a district down the street and they're really having success with it, I'm going to start asking questions and thinking, how can I implement that in my district? So I think it's you have your early adopters, and then you have some people who are ready to jump on board once they see it start to work.
No, makes sense. But again, I have seen, that the biggest, okay, So the way schools are working versus how any other industry work is massively different. So I understand there's a human psychology angle that, a small success leads to like a domino effect, and then it can have a bigger impact. But in a education sector, there's a lot of human inertia. We and the incentives are not aligned always to innovate, right? Uh, while I know if I'm working with a B2B client, let's say in oil industry or let's say in a automobile industry, and I know I can prove the ROI, they will buy, right? They will,
Yeah.
because their incentives are aligned, their promotions, their like their increment is all aligned to that. That's not the case with K-12. So that's why I'm trying to dig in deeper. But what do you think makes a small pilot or a small success entire county-wide success? If you have any examples of that.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a specific example in mind right now, but I can tell you you're accurate that we are slow to jump on board with initiatives that because the ROI, if I'm a business owner, I can see the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's tricky when you're talking about student achievement. The bottom line for the ROI with one student may be vastly different than the ROI for another. So how do you discern whether that's a useful adoption of some sort of methodology, product, a technique?
Yeah.
I'm not making excuses for our profession because you're absolutely right. We're slower to adapt, but I think it's because it's a little more complicated than
Right.
looking at a bottom line on a spreadsheet.
No, I agree. And also the timeline, you cannot see any impact coming in even in a year. Like 1 year is like the minimum of the minimum when you can see the results. And sometimes if you talk about career readiness or you talk about graduation rates, those numbers might even take more than 5 years to come out. So
Absolutely, much more than five in a lot of cases.
yeah, I think, and that's one of the beauty I think of the edtech, or at least in K-12, is sooner you realize, more resilient you become working with the schools. And if you do not have it in you, do not work. Like that's my genuine advice when I
Right,
yeah,
right.
when I talk to other educational founders, and I'm like, do you have your patience? If yes, go for it. Otherwise, you're gonna get burnt out very quickly.
And that's great advice.
Okay, okay. I picked up on this topic. I want to come back again to this, that the homeschooling growing, charter expansion. So many people are questioning the role of public school systems. Uh, how do you see the purpose of school districts evolving over the next 5 years or 10 years?
Yeah, let me preface it by saying I respect the right of parents to homeschool, take their children to parochial school, do what they need to do. Public school academies, parents should have the right to choose where they want to send their children. Funding is a different conversation, not for today, how those schools are funded. Let's have that conversation another time.
Yeah.
But public schools are the great equalizer. We take every child, we focus on each individual child, and we do everything we can to help them be successful. That's not the case with every one of the. That's not the case with every educational institution. Public schools will continue to evolve. Maybe we're a little slower, but I think AI can be part of the solution in helping us evolve. And I do think that I have great faith in public schools that we will continue to advocate for each and every child, continue to incrementally evolve, and at some point, perhaps evolve a little faster than that, and make sure that we do things for students that I don't know that everyone can. We have the resources, some cases diminished resources depending on your budgets. In Michigan, we've experienced that for years, but we have some of the greatest teachers in the world, some of the greatest administrators in the world, and parents and communities that really care about kids. So I have a lot of faith in where the public schools are going. And I know it's not always easy to see that because competition is welcome. Competition makes us stronger. But I do believe that we are the answer for the majority of students.
No, I have another point to add. So you're right. When you talk about any private institution, and they have this mechanism when they choose the students they want to enroll in, at that point of time, any results that they show are always skewed because they have chosen who they want to teach, or they have chosen students on basis of various metrics, the parents' background, or even the even the price barrier is a great filtering mechanism. If you put your fees as $10,000, you know there's a certain section of society. So I have a very interesting research. So other day I was reading about this marshmallow test. Have you heard about it? That you put
I
two
have
kids.
not.
So the theory is you put two kids in a room and you put a marshmallow in front of them and you tell them if you wait for 5 minutes and do not eat it, we'll give you two more
I've heard it.
marshmallows, right? And then the theory was the kid who waited out ended up more successful in life. And but now there's another angle to it that you do not know the background of those kids. If the kids are coming from
That's
a
right.
affluent family or a genuine or like a family where there's more trust on the system, waiting out for 5 minutes was not a hard thing for them. But if you're coming from a disadvantaged background and you do not have trust in the system, you would rather eat what you have in front of you rather than waiting it out. So, and if
Yeah,
you look at it from that lens, those two kids, the one who's coming from a humble background versus one who's coming from a affluent background, odds are not the same for them, and they will. I think the results will get skewed up. So honestly, now I take every theory with a pinch of salt, and unless I know who is it been done on, but the only thing that makes me confident about public schools is that it is open for all and it is for all, and there is no filtering,
right. That's right.
there's no fee structure as such. That makes it their data is the real reflection of the society.
That's right. That's right. The public schools are a reflection of society, and I love that we take all students. Absolutely love it. The one who'll eat the marshmallow, the one who won't eat the marshmallow, the one who doesn't have a marshmallow, and the one who has a bag of them. They're all our kids, and we're going to love them all.
Yeah, I love that. So, any last piece of advice that you have for anyone right now? Either they are a teacher or a curriculum director, or right now they're a superintendent of a district. Any advice you have for them of how they should be looking at, their career trajectory?
I'm a firm believer that you get the job, you get the next job by doing the job you have well. And as long as what you're doing is focused on children, not yourself, not the politics, not the all of the other myriad factors that influence what you do. If your focus is on what's best for children, for each individual child in your care, you're going to be successful.
No,
It won't be without pain at times. It won't be without stress. It won't be without controversy. But if you care about children and you take care of children, good things will come to you.
no, I love that. I also have a little advice, which I have seen in a very short journey of mine. You should go out and, talk about your, not to glorify or not to flaunt, but talk to more people. I think networking is very important part of this industry, whether it is on online networking through LinkedIn or offline networking through conferences, because how would people know if we don't come out and talk?
Yeah.
So I think,
Yeah. I would amend that just a bit. If you don't go out and listen, is more important.
I love that.
Go out and listen to others.
No, perfect. This has been fantastic, and I think this is I'm first time I'm doing someone from a county level. Mostly it has been at the school or district level, so that's why I had a lot of fundamental questions. Hopefully they were not too basic, but it has been fun talking.
No, I'm honored to have been asked. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.